So when you look at important developments in history about liturgy, when we talk about marriage, when we talk about anything like that, people like Cranmer are always talked about. He's the guy that developed the prayer book. To move away from Catholicism, it was nothing really to do with Henry VIII wanting to get a divorce, and people get that highly confused in history. Henry VIII might have thought that was the case, but Cranmer didn't. Cranmer wanted the Reformation of the Church to move away from Catholicism to be more Bible-believing and Bible-based. We've also got to talk about people like Lionel Murphy. He was a senator, he was a High Court Justice guy in Australia. He was a guy that wanted weddings to be free flowing, like I said in my last thing. He wanted the people to have more control, and it seemed like Australia agreed with him because he voted it through. And then there was, I believe there was an act that came in that changed it, where there would be civil settlements, and it was the movement that kind of changed weddings, funerals, and naming ceremonies in that element. And it's really important to remember guys like this, because in 200 years time we don't want to be forgetting the guys that changed something so large, like Cranmer with the prayer book. And so, but important figure to remember when it comes to ceremonies, when it comes to weddings, when it comes to stuff like that, because his development of the civil ceremony moved across the whole entire world, or the Western world, or whatever, the New World, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It moved across that, and it developed into places in the USA, places in Europe and stuff like that, to have these formats of weddings where you had more control. It wasn't dim and dark in the registry office, or it wasn't overly controlled by the church. It was something that the people had a charge of, and they worked with the civil celebrants. It's a really hard word to say, to move forward. It's a great bit of history, actually. Super enjoying this bit of this work I'm doing. So something that's super interesting within what they call the religious marriage contract, that a lot of people have moved away from the past 70, 80 years, when it fundamentally comes down to it, is the words "I obey." And I am with them people. I don't think a woman should ever say they obey a man in that format at all. It's a partnership of two people uniting together, and no one should obey each other. But what makes it more interesting when you start thinking about it from a philosophy concept is that you remove the "I obey" concept from it. I'm talking about a woman and a man marrying here in this element, is that the man no longer should have to ask the father for permission to marriage. And I want to tell you why I think this is the case. Is that the format of "I obey" is that the father is handing over his power over his daughter. That's the fact. And it's the same with the giving away, the father walking the daughter down the aisle, giving her daughter to her husband. And it's quite interesting, we've moved away from that. But all of this stuff actually fundamentally started in the 60s and 70s, where people wanted to move away from these elements. And I'm glad we did, because we should always remember we are all human, all right? And when two people unite as one in a relationship, it's not about obeying each other, it's about working together in the present and the future moment.